What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back. Folks, it's finally here. Prismatic Evolutions has been officially released in stores everywhere. People are getting their ETBs in droves. Like, that's all I've been seeing on social media as people posting their, their finds at Walmart or whatever. So, in today's auction recap, of course, we'll be covering a few sales of Prismatic Evolutions, both sealed and some raw cards that have come through in auction, as well as numerous other auctions. You know how we do. Stick around to the end, folks. You're not going to want to miss today's recap. Quick shout out to today's auction recap sponsor. You know them, you love them. It's lowpopping.com, your source for high-end investment-worthy Pokemon cards. Folks, if you're in the market for high-end, either graded or sealed Pokemon cards, you need to go check out lowpopping.com. Whether you collect PSA, CGC, or BGS graded cards, or all of the above, you will not find any shortage of grails to choose from, folks. Believe me. They have cards and authentic sealed product spanning across all generations of the Pokemon TCG. They also make it super easy to trade for or make offers on just about anything you see. And don't forget, they offer buy now, pay later options, and they offer worldwide shipping as well. If you are looking to invest your hard-earned money in collectibles like these, you need to do it with a legitimate and trustworthy seller. That's where lowpopping.com comes in. Go check it out, folks. The link to the website will be in the description of this video. And I always appreciate you messaging me or emailing me, letting me know what you picked up from lowpopping.com. Hang on to your seats, folks, because I've got one heck of a recap for you. Let's get started off with this guy right here, the Pikachu Van Gogh promo. You know, it continues to blow our minds each and every week. Here is a PSA 10 copy that sold for $726. Another one here sold for $742. Another one sold for $750. And then here is a CGC 10 pristine copy that sold for $975. And then we saw several alternate art Pokemon cards that continue to boom like crazy. Here's the Giratina V from Lost Origin in PSA 10 that sold for $1,470. Here we have a Black Star promo Umbreon and Darkrai GX in PSA 10 that sold for $620. Here is the Anascar VMAX sold as a PSA 10 for $1,600 this week, along with the Mewtwo GX that I believe hit a new record price selling this week as a PSA 10 for $2,275 big ones. And it's not just been the Umbreon that's been booming from Evolving Skies. The other evolutions are also following suit. Here's a Leafeon VMAX in PSA 10 that sold for $599, along with this Sylveon VMAX that sold for $605. And then here it is, folks, the Moonbreon VMAX. We saw a couple of raw copies come by selling for unbelievable amounts. Here's one that sold for $1,426. Another one sold for $1,450. Here's a PSA 10 that sold this week for $2,951. Another one that sold for $3,100. Another one that sold for $3,300. And then here's a BGS 10 copy that sold for an even 4,000 clams. What I said last week, folks, I said this card's going to be crossing the $3,000 threshold as a PSA 10, and boom, here it is. We are well beyond the $3,000, on to $4,000. At least that's how it feels. Here we have all of the gold cards from Crown Zenith, the Arceus, the Dialga, the Giratina, the Palkia, all in PSA 10, sold for a grand total of $1,650 this week. Here we have a raw copy of the Japanese Mario Pikachu full art card that sold for $2,475. And if that blows your mind, wait till we go over the PSA 10 copy of this card. Here we have a BGS 10 Black Label Charizard poncho wearing Pikachu that sold for $15,900 this week. And then we saw a couple of Portuguese cards. I'm not sure what's going on with the Portuguese card market, but it's like they're selling for pretty much English and Japanese prices. It's weird. Here is a Portuguese Team Aqua's Kyogre in PSA 10 that sold for $771, along with this Portuguese Black Star promo Venusaur EX that sold for $415. And then here it is, folks, the Prismatic Evolution sales. Here we have a Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box that sold for $255. And then we saw a sealed case of 4 Pokemon Center ETBs that sold for $1,025. And then we saw just a couple of raw cards come by from Prismatic Evolutions. Here is the Gold Hyper Rare Pikachu EX that sold for $237.50. Here we have the beautiful Espeon EX Special Illustration Rare that sold raw, of course, for $730. Here is the Glaceon EX that sold for $435. And then here we have the Leafeon EX that sold for $555. And folks, don't you worry, in just a day or two, I will be releasing the top 10 most expensive cards from Prismatic Evolutions. We will have all the cards on it, at least all the notable cards. You're not going to want to miss that video. We're going to see some insane prices. Onto the vintage portion from eBay, we saw a lot of all 16, I believe. Yes, all 16 first edition base set holos. The top row there they're all graded, I think, PSA 6s, so even the Charizard is graded, and the rest are raw. This lot sold for a total of $10,500, which might not be too bad, having all of the holos from first edition base, and even 6 of them graded. I don't know, what do you think? Here we have a PSA 10 first edition holo Umbreon from Neo Discovery, rearing its head this week and selling for $10,100. This is the OG Umbreon, the OG Moonbreon, whatever you want to call it. Sold for 5 figures in auction this week, along with this holo Gengar from Expedition in PSA 10 that sold for $12,100. That is one expensive Gengar, folks. Here is the holo Dark Dragonite from Legendary Collection in PSA 10 that sold for $4,100. Here we have from Supreme Victors the Charizard Level X that sold in PSA 10 for $3,150, along with this holo Charizard from Secret Wonders. Not the best illustration of Charizard, I might say, but still pretty valuable, selling as a PSA 10 for $3,551. Here is a Japanese Vaporeon Gold Star 10,000 point promo card that sold for $2,700, along with this Moltres from Black and White Legendary Treasures, just a regular holo Moltres that sold for $631 as a PSA 10. A couple of pieces of sealed product came by that were very interesting. Here is a case of Surging Sparks. Remember Surging Sparks? I know we get caught up in the Prismatic Evolution hype, but Surging Sparks was once a thing. And here is a sealed case of Surging Sparks booster boxes that sold for $1,455. So, not too bad. Here is an XY Flashfire booster box that sold for $3,900 this week. Here is a Black and White Legendary Treasures box that sold for $4,050, along with this Black and White Dragons Exalted booster box sold for $4,750. And then here is a Diamond and Pearl Stormfront booster box that sold for $8,100 this week. And then on to the Fanatics Collect weekly auction block, we saw a couple of interesting sales. Here is a BGS 10 Black Label Charizard V promo from the Champions Path Elite Trainer box, sold for $720. And if you don't know, folks, this Charizard right here is one of the most graded Pokemon cards of all time. It might still hold the record as number 1. I'm not sure. I haven't checked on it, but there is an insane amount of these graded. Here we have once again the Pikachu Van Gogh promo in PSA 10. It sold for $930 on Fanatics Collect. And then we also saw a CGC10 Pristine example that sold for $1,170. Here is a beautiful card I don't see very often. It's a CGC10 Pristine Ninetales from EX Dragon Frontiers, sold for $960. Absolutely beautiful card. Here is a super cute Flareon from Pop Series 3 that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,020. Here is a CGC10 Pristine Lugia Alt Art from Silver Tempest that sold for $1,170. Along with this BGS 10 Black Label Pikachu Stamp Box promo card, sold for $1,920. Here is a Kyogre from Call of Legends that sold as a PSA 10 for $2,760. Then here is another Moonbreon VMAX that also sold for $3,000. Here is a Black Star promo Dialga from the Diamond and Pearl era. Pop 3 card as a PSA 10, sold for an even $3,000 this week. along with this Celebi EX from Pop Series 2 that sold for $3,120. Here is that Mario Pikachu that we covered earlier as a raw copy. This one here is graded, a PSA 10, and sold for $8,100. Very close to being a 5-figure card as a PSA 10. And then the final auction in this week's recap would have to be this 2009 Japanese Design Contest promo of Arceus. That sold as a PSA 10 for $15,600. Woo, boy, this market is on fire, folks. I can't wait to release the top 10 Prismatic Evolutions video. I think you're going to love it, so stay tuned for that. That's all I got for today's recap. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to go check out lowpopping.com, and I will catch you in my next one.